you have your own business.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you something you don't know. I'm literally just laying out the question. Was there like a reason why you decided to do this in an entrepreneurial way as opposed to maybe finding a job as a luthier with a company?
I think it's more based on region, like being in Nova Scotia. There are not a lot of places for one to pursue this as a career. So
Right.
when I came back to Nova Scotia, when was it? 2013 or something? 2014. It's not easy to find a job doing this. So I kind of just realized, like, I'd worked as a photographer for a lot of years and was sort of, used to being my own show, I guess. And I kind of just, transitioned into doing this and being my own show.
Right.
Was it the right idea? Who knows?
Well, I mean, you've definitely had a certain amount of success and profile and everything. You're usually busy, and I guess that was leading into the next part of the question. So, as an entrepreneur that does a combination of mostly repairs, probably right, and builds, how does an average year look? When you look at a year, are there like seasons of busy, or is it constant throughout the year? Like, are there periods that are busier than others? Are there periods that are more chaotic than others? And is it the same every year?
Used to be seasonal. I used to see like huge bumps in business around like, late spring because everyone goes up tour for the summer, and then like another surge in sort of like the fall because of festivals like the Halifax Pop Explosion and stuff of that nature. I would see a bit of a bump just before Christmas as well. Not just, people purchasing stuff for other people and wanting to get it dealt with before it actually goes to them at Christmas, but it seems like a lot of people during that season impulse buy for themselves.
Yeah.
So like I was seeing a bit of a surge in like, early to mid December, but I don't really have that anymore. It's pretty much just constant now at this point. To the point where I've actually had to limit pretty substantially, like how much stuff I have in, what I'm taking in, what the jobs are and whatnot, because it becomes really unmanageable really quickly. Every guitar is a shit show in some respect. Like, well, I guess I can't really say that. Every guitar I get is a shit show at this point. Like, I'm not really a setup guy. A lot of the repair stuff I tend to do seems to be a little more structural. So that has made it so that I have to, bill large and limit what I'm taking in solely to, have some sort of manageable time frame for turning these things around. It's not uncommon to have something come through the door being one thing, and then when you get it under the lens and you're really looking at it, you realize the problem is actually something else entirely, and that's the thing that actually needs to be fixed, and it's always something more substantial than what you ever planned it to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So we talked about this a while back, but you've set a limit, like an upper limit at certain points in a 2 or 3 month period, how many slots you give out, and that's it. Has that worked for you? Like setting those boundaries?
It works really well. I'm no longer working myself crazy. That was an issue. This is one of those jobs where you can do a 70-hour week real fucking easy.
Yeah.
And it was like I was saying yes to so many things, and then getting them on the table and starting to figure stuff out and realizing that, like, oh my god, it's so much more, and then just piss poor time management on my part, because like, I tend to get lost in things really easily. It's not like a distraction kind of thing. It's more a function of like hyper focus, where I run into a problem, and that problem is just absolutely fucking consumes me. It makes me a great repair guy. Like, believe you me, I've had to think through some pretty nutty things over the years, and come up with some really weirdo solutions. But to have everything that comes through the door be like, something extravagant, like it became really hard to manage. I ended up in 2019, like, I worked myself to the point of I broke down. Like, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, if I could continue doing this. Like, I wanted to just go get a job as a fucking dishwasher, like, or a forklift driver or something, where I just went and punched a clock and walked away. But unfortunately, I'm also not built for that.
Right. So it's almost like it almost served as like a natural reaction to your regular day to day. You wanted, you almost had the impulse to have the total opposite, like no creative thinking, just put me in front of anything, and let me do something mundane for 8 hours. I get that. I totally understand. Like, was that part of it? Like, setting the limits? Like, what was the impetus to set that limit? Like, how did you arrive at even the number? Like, how did that work?
The number sort of fluctuates. Like, it depends on what comes to the door. Like, right. Sometimes it's 25 cases, sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 30. Like, I sort of just like arbitrarily draw the line based on what I'm getting. I've been doing this long enough now that I'm pretty good at sort of guessing how long something is going to take me.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these things, subconsciously already what things are going to be, and I think this is probably part of the challenge of just talking about it. You are. When I was in university, one of the sort of intro to sciences and the arts sort of courses I took one called Science as Discovery. And a lot of the ways that this course sort of like ended up affecting me were sort of like just basic concepts, like someone with know-how versus know about. So somebody who can do versus someone who can teach. And there's a spectrum, right? So you are a person who's actually taken on apprentices. You are a know-how machine. Like, you're a tinkerer, right?
But I've proven over and over again that I can't fucking teach.
but know about is a skill. Like, that's the thing. Know how is a skill, and know about is a skill. Like, to be able to do what I do for a living. Like, I work in a basically a high stress customer environment, but we all work from home. So all I have is a window like this and text messages to work with a team and teach them what to do. So, like, my typing fingers get, like, okay, you got to do this and this and this and this, and it's because of this and this and this and this. And just to be able to sort of explain it. My skill is in the ability to explain it. I think as a person who is stronger in know-how, like yourself, that's a challenge, right? Even me asking you questions on, how do you sort of like delve into the mechanics of what you do subconsciously? Like, how do you know that this task takes you 12 minutes? You just know.
Yeah. I just know.
Yeah. And being in the environment you're a one-person show. How many apprentices do you have right now? Do you have anybody? That says a very sad question. Do you have anybody?
I've got a couple of people that kind of come and go that I am really happy with. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're apprentices. Like, I definitely have slightly more knowledge than they do in this given subject. But I mean, a lot of this job is guesswork. So, everybody brings something to the table. Do you get what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I do.
So, like, the two people that I work with off and on, like, one of them is like a sound tech who also fixes church organs. So, I mean, totally different realm, but a bit of crossover. And then one of the other fine folks that I do stuff with is by trade like a metal worker, welder, fabricator. So
Right.
there's sort of like that wealth of knowledge to draw from. I may know more about this one thing, but they know way more about other things that I think are equally as important.
I've always found what you do to be fascinating in the sense that because you're dealing with a large, like guitars are fairly, large. It's not like you're a watchmaker, but at the same time, there's a portion of precision that is in line with watchmaking. You're not a person who does maintenance on motorcycles, but you probably have a lot physically in common with sometimes adjusting things at that level. So Loothin is essentially, it's kind of like
Good old
Loothin. That's why I only picked that up from you. But to work on guitars, it seems to sort of incorporate a lot of different disciplines that are, as much as they're based in mechanics and as much as they're based in precision, there's also, like you have to make sure something plays properly. So you kind of have to also have a listening ear. You have to be able to have the proper feel, like anybody who works in a discipline that essentially is in the maintenance of an artistic object, if you will. Like that's the most like pretentious way that I can put it, or the most sort of weird way that I can put it. But
you win.
Yay. I finally have reached the apex of pretension. The question in there is, do you like playing? Like, yeah. Because
once in a blue moon.
Yeah, because we've talked a lot in this interview, but also just throughout the course of our friendship, about the whole idea of working on guitars versus kind of playing them, enjoying them,
yeah.
And doing this for as long as you have, I would venture to say that you probably have worked on more guitars than you have played them. Is that a fair statement?
Well, no, I've had to play every single guitar I've worked on.
Right.
So, I mean...
Okay. So you're going to get me on a technicality. I got you.
Yeah.
It's
easy out. Easy out.
No, it's more like your comfort level with working on guitars and knowing all the different components and how they fit together might be something that you do more often than, playing Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
Or anything else on the band Steve's music list.
That thing I have never once played.
If I know you for anything, it's your constant playing of Stairway to Heaven.
You can't get enough.
Seriously, he's always walking up them steps. There's a lady who knows.
Is that one of those Led Zeppelin songs where that Robert Plant guy sings about his penis a whole bunch?
Oh, well, I mean, he built an entire legacy on his penis. That's living right there.
Are you moving on to another question? I never answered that other question. I just can skate past it.
It's all good. Okay, go for it.
I don't play guitar. I don't go at midnight and fucking noodle. Those days are long past. At the end of the day, the second I clock out of this place, like I don't want to see a guitar again for at least 8 hours, maybe 16 if I can pull that off. I mean, I take my work home with me a considerable amount, like not actual physical guitars, but like whatever's rolling around that day, like whatever weird problem I feel the need to obsess over, I definitely take that home, spend hours upon hours reading about random super niche guitar things because who else is going to fix it? And that's one of it was neat that you brought up sort of like me having stuff more akin with like people who do or build motorcycles or do motorcycle maintenance. It's like there's so much crossover. Like guitar work is such a really weirdly niche thing that it requires me or someone in my position to like that niche is actually comprised of like 6 or 7 other like sub niches, which, you know, I have to like be an expert at all of them. Like whether it's doing, you know, finish work or structural woodwork or, you know, like refretting something or like, you know, it's like in my spare time after going to Luthier school for a while, like in my spare time, I've had to pursue like effectively fucking degrees in like 6 other subjects in order to make this job one cohesive thing. Like the number of hours I've spent like, you know, reading about finishing techniques or watching videos of finishing techniques and then like having to jump into like, you know, to like effectively working on a secondary degree in electronics at the same time because I've got a soldering issue that I have to solve. Like it's weird wearing that many hats sometimes. I sometimes worry that I'm not an expert at any of these things. Just merely getting, you know, like I'm good at a handful of things, sort of all right at like another half a dozen things. Like I don't know. It's hard to gauge. I've now trailed off and totally lost it.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Because that idea of, are you just a walking tribal knowledge factory then? Like, or do you have any of the stuff like documented or written down?
It all lives in my brain all the time. And if I could like eliminate about 20 years worth of The Simpsons, I would have a hell of a lot more space.
Let's talk about dealing with customers. Being essentially the chief cook and bottle washer for No Guitars, is dealing with the people that give you the instruments to work with. Is that a necessary evil of the job, or is that a part of the job that you enjoy?
I'm bad at humans. Like I'm not the greatest at other humans. I care about other humans.
Right.
It's a really hard question to answer. Through this job, I've met so many fucking wonderful people.
Yeah.
That like I love dearly. I've met so many creative and interesting like individuals that I don't think I would really get anywhere else, you know. But at the same time, I've met some fucking turds who will remain nameless, and rat-faced. I don't know. It's really hard to, it's hard to manage people's expectations. I mean, most of the people that I do work for understand that, like, I am just a one-man show, and I'm going to do the best goddamn job that I can in every scenario. Like, there's no guitar that crosses my bench that gets more or better treatment than any other guitar. It doesn't matter what's on that headstock for me. Like, that thing has to go out the door playing perfectly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that takes time. I'm better at it now, like years and years later, of understanding how much time certain things are going to take. But you still have the odd job sneak up and totally upend that for you.
Yeah.
Most of the people I deal with understand now that, like, post 2019 and me sort of working myself to death and falling apart, I've taken some steps, not just limiting like how many things I take in and sort of working on a tattoo artist style schedule where it's like, I've got this many slots, this much time. If you've contacted me in the last couple of months, like now's your window. It's now, or we'll discuss it in a couple more months. Like, I stopped giving timelines to people. That had become such a huge point of anxiety for me.
Right.
Was, I try to turn around everything in a reasonable amount of time. I mean, but once again, only one dude. Like, and it's a lot of fucking work sometimes. In doing so, like, I kind of said to myself, in future, I don't want to be tied to this timeline issue. Like, I want to be able to approach things sort of more at my own kind of ease. So I'm not constantly overworking myself trying to juggle all of these different projects. Like, when people bring me stuff now, it's under the the agreement that like it's going to take as long as it takes. I will do my best to turn it around in a timely manner. But some things take a lot more work than other things, and the priority at the end of the day has to be sort of just keeping the lights on. There are certain jobs that I do because I love them, but the pay is shit. So, like, if you bring me something like refinish, that can take a substantial amount of time. Like, building a guitar for someone now, I only take one build a year because literally I only have enough time and can only make X amount of dollars off of that one thing.
Right.
I can only afford personally to do one of them per year. The rest of that time is just spent banging out repairs. I try to not take on more than one or two like finish jobs at a time. I'm not talking about like dents and dings and stuff like that. I'm talking about like stripping bodies and necks and spraying like full fucking guitars and restoring stuff and stuff of that nature. Like,
a calculation of time versus a calculation of money versus a calculation of overall enrichment for you, and kind of put all those things into a blender and kind of see.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, this is where like I'm really bad at articulating this stuff because it just like it all lives in my brain. Like I've never sat down and drawn out an Excel sheet as to what takes what amount of time and what amount of effort and what, like I guess I have actually in a sense because I've got a functional price list for a lot of these jobs. Yeah, the bulk of all of it just lives in my brain all the time. When it comes to stuff like finish work, I mean, it's like one of the things I find more gratifying to do. But it's so costly and time consuming that like I can't do it and make money off of it unless that was the only thing I did. Do you know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, even the building, like, because obviously there must be just certain people that only build.
Very much so. Or certain people that have other people working for them and they're able to delegate some of the other stuff to them, therefore granting them the time to actually pursue building. Like, I got into this to build. Like, my interest in guitars wasn't like when I started, it wasn't really about repairs. It was about like, I want to make gnarly looking guitars. And now I want to make, gnarly looking pointy guitars.
That's when you graduate to the pointy stage. That's when you really make
I'm at pointy now. I've transitioned into pointy. It can be kind of disheartening at times, honestly. Like I this is something I've wrestled with a lot in the last couple of years where, I'm bogged down with incredible amounts of super niche repair work and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm just fucking adjacent to like where I should be, not even where I should be, where I want to be, or where I wanted to be. Like, it's like I'm dream adjacent.
maybe always putting yourself like, because that's the stick and the carrot sort of situation, right? Like, you're always pursuing, but never actually fully satisfying your dream or your ideal, right? So, and so it's almost like you need to have some of that quote unquote shit work in the canister so you can always appreciate when you get to the point where it's like, that's the stuff. This is the good stuff right here. So you almost have to build that in.
Unfortunately, it's also the shit work that keeps the lights on.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, utopia is an ideal for a reason because it's not practical. It's you can't people can't just do whatever the hell they want at all times because society would collapse. You need people to clean shit up. That's the way it works.
Don't fucking tell me what to do.
Once again, not telling you what to do. I am simply stating an opinion.
You just torpedoed my dream. Like, well, you can't have utopia because
I'm sorry if no one's told you this before. It's just facts are facts, Robin. Facts are facts. Post COVID, and I don't want to talk too much about COVID. Maybe for starters, I'll ask you how COVID affected your work for let's say the last couple of years, and then we'll move on. So you don't have to wax tragic or poetic on it, but maybe how does it work? How did it work in sort of the lockdown era for you as a luthier?
I never really had to fully lock down because I most of the time I spend at work, I spend alone. Mm-hmm. So I was during the beginning of COVID, like I did take some time off because it was like this huge, scary fucking thing that was kind of foisted upon all of us. And at that point in time, like who knew how bad shit was going to get? And, the liberal media, I'm just kidding.
All right, cut.
No, sorry. No, essentially, like in this day and age, the 24-hour news cycle tends to sensationalize like absolutely everything. And the fear machine during the early days of it was very real. Not unwarranted, but maybe overdone a bit.
A tad.
Having said that, it's all in hindsight. So, really was it overdone? I think we got lucky in a lot of respects. But for me, to get back to the actual question, COVID worked out really well for me in the fact that it allowed me to take time and knock out some bigger, like long-term projects, I guess, like in the very beginning of it. There was a lot of the early days of it that I was just sitting at home playing in video games. But, I did actually, like, throughout that, I did actually work. And it also sort of, like, the breakdown I had in 2019, I had to walk away from work for a while. And I walked away for, several months.
Yeah.
Just to sort of, like, figure out, like, do I want to keep doing this? Is this for me? Like, this isn't what I signed up for.
Right.
I had to, come to some pretty harsh realizations about, I guess, my place in the world and how I wish to exist in it. But like one of the things that had really bothered me and pushed me sort of to this point was a glut of just like long-term projects that have been sitting in the shop that it was like, I got to do all this other stuff to keep the lights on. This is just going to sit here, and just coming in every day and seeing the same guitars, like just sitting there in that state of disrepair. And it's like, I need to finish this.
Yeah.
I don't have time to finish this. I need to do all of this other stuff so my bills are paid. And like, I was like sort of like spinning out. So I took a few months off, and that few months sort of like lined up with the early days of COVID. So it was like I was going to be home sort of anyway.
Right.
And then, it allowed me though, like once I was like, all right, I'm ready. I just need to go back in and knock this stuff out and just, not like suck it up by any means. Sorry, air quotes, but like tiny screen.
It wasn't so much. It was you bearing down, right? It would instead of sucking it up, maybe bearing down might be a better.
Yeah, I found myself in that place where it was like, okay, I'm ready. Like this needs to be done. I'm the only person that's going to do it. Like, not to be a self-horn tutor, but I'm actually pretty all right at my job. I have a breadth of experience that not a lot of people have. Like, as far as my stupid knowledge of guitars. like, like I know how to make the donuts, right? Like
yeah, you know what you're doing.
When that lockdown happened, like I was just like, holy shit, I've been training for this my entire life. Like no human contact. Yes.